I honestly can't believe that Natlan is almost over. We've only been here for, I don't know, what has it been, like a year now? It feels so weird to leave this entire area behind again. But yeah, we are, what are we, 10 days away from Nodcry? 7 days, wow, we're basically nothing. And I honestly just wanted to share my entire experience with Natlan with you, because this has been some of the weirdest time in, I think, Genshin history so far. And it's made a lot of people kind of feel divided about the game, really. Most of the problems lie with this, but we'll get there. But no, I felt like I kind of want to share my closing thoughts on what Natlan was to me, how I felt about the entire expansion, essentially. Can we call it expansion? Do we call it patches here? Look, I'm a World of Warcraft player. We call it expansions. I don't know what we want to call it. But no, I just kind of wanted to share my reflections and how I actually felt about the game. This is definitely a rant video, so if you just want to leave this in the background, there will be nothing really relevant on screen. I'll just kind of be going around to places I enjoy the look of, and that will really be it. You can just sit and listen to me on your second monitor or in the background or however you want to do it. Now, something that I want to make entirely clear with this video, which a lot of people on the Mawika video kind of failed to realize, that I'm gonna have to put a disclaimer on this video. Shocker. This video is going to contain an opinion. What I am talking about here today is my own personal experience with this patch, and that may not be the same experience that you had. My thoughts and feelings about what has happened in the past year with Genshin Impact might not reflect yours. I ask of you humbly to accept the fact that my opinion may be different. There are a lot of people out there who did not agree with me on the Mawika video, and there were a lot of them who did. That's the beauty of these things. It's all in the eye of the beholder. If you are incapable of holding a nice tone in the comments with your opinion, you're just going to be removed. I monitor that stuff. A lot of people noticed on the Mawika video, and I will continue to do so. Hold some civil conversations, and I will have absolutely no problem with you. Now, there are a couple of things I really want to talk about when it comes to Natlan, so I've kind of broken my little rant up in a couple of pieces. I want to start off with the story, or the Archon quest specifically, I should note. I'll touch some of the smaller things that I remember. As you can probably guess, this entire video is unscripted, which is why it's honesty, baby. We're not doing retakes around here, though I may edit around a little bit. So, the plotline of Natlan felt really, really awkward to me. We were introduced to Natlan back in Fontaine as the Nation of War. We weren't explicitly told that it was some war-torn highland of multiple clans of people fighting or anything, no. But we were told on multiple occasions that we are stepping into a place that knows strife, that knows what battle is, that knows, how to maintain a nation under distress of war, essentially. And there was a lot of hype around that. And when we got introduced to what Natlan actually was, we got that, absolutely beautiful cinematic, by the way. But it just showed off, the Kachinas and Shalonan's tribe, whatever they're called, the Rock Munchers or whatever, having, a breakdance party. It felt so disjointed from the world that we have experienced previously that I really went through a culture shock almost. I don't know what my honest opinion was, but I remember talking to one of my friends who got me into Genshin, and they literally said, "What the hell is happening?" And that's kind of what I felt too. It felt so, I don't know, the expectations were just very different. I expected a very serious tone about everything and lives matter, and we were gonna go into some actual, I don't know, documentary about the crisis of war, but it just wasn't there. It was just, it's really strange. The first thing that happens when we actually got into Natlan is that we meet Kachina, who is not failing to get teammates because apparently she sucks or whatever. She's just unlucky or some garbage like this. And we spend half of the Archon quest just trying to make friends with people to start a Bakugan battle team or whatever. And then we get to the actual competition, which animation wise looked stunning. I loved everything about it. but it just didn't feel right. So apparently the nation of war, that again we have been told is, you know, on the verge of collapse, they're just participating in the X Games. That's the plot. I don't know what it was about it, honestly, but it just rubbed me the wrong way. And the further we got into the Archon quest, I felt like the worse it became. Like, yeah, we had the whole X Games arc, and Kachina, you know, like, wins and then goes into the Night Kingdom to fight the Abyss and then doesn't get resurrected. And, we have our plotline that we have to follow. We have to save Kachina. Woo! And, you know, we go through all of that, whatever, just to be introduced to Mawika, who just doesn't feel like she cares. Like, I don't know if that's right to say, because she's obviously written to be like a caring mother kind of thing, but I don't think it works. Like, yeah, we get introduced to her little headquarters with all of the weird stuff that's been gathered over 500 years for whatever reason, and we find Kachina somewhere in the Night Kingdom, and we're like, we gotta go rescue her, so we send in, you know, the 6 heroes of old, or whatever, the reincarnation of their ancient names, or some crap, whatever it was. Look, I barely even remember the plot. That is how little it interested me. I can still probably recap the entirety of Fontaine's plot from heart, because that was, despite not being very original, it was incredibly well written. Natlan's just wasn't. This is not to talk about the massive plot holes that they leave up in the air either. It's just kinda... it doesn't feel right, in a way. Something about the plot is just off. So, you know, you go through the entire ordeal with that, you rescue Kachina, now it's like, aha, guess what? Capitano's somewhere in this entire shenanigans. And Mawika just, like, punches him really hard, and he has, like, a heart attack or whatever. Oh no, he's got a mark on him now, and apparently they were evenly matched, and then they just don't fight anymore. And, you know, then we go into the whole deal with the Night Kingdom thing, and which is, like, that's the only interesting plot about all of this, because it had basically nothing to do with Natlan. The whole, like, Capitano arc and how his, you know, he gives himself up to free all of the souls he's carried with him. They're really good. That's perfect. I'm, like, if they leave Capitano there for the rest of time, that's perfectly acceptable to me. He served a very good plot purpose, and he got the ending he fought for. Leave it there. I'm perfectly okay with this. But, like, everything else leading up to that point felt like it had absolutely no significance. Like, we go through an entire freaking, like, war during the Archon quest. Like, if you go to the statue where the Natlan, like, boss is, you can see how many people died during the war, and supposedly, like, 1,700 people died in my world. Where were they? I saw, like, 2 guys die when I did the quest. It feels so insignificant, and that feels bad. I want to compare that to, like, Fontaine is obviously the most recent, so I'll try and do that, I guess. Fontaine's Archon quest felt like it had consequences the entire way through, even though the actual plotline doesn't really reveal itself until, you know, after we realize what's happening with Farina. Like, the entire plotline with Navia still feels like it's leading to something. Like, it's a decent plotline through and through. You can genuinely see Navia's emotions throughout the entire thing as she goes on the turmoil of the life she's been given. It's well done. Yes, it's not entirely original, and I'm not gonna sit here and, you know, send its praises to the high sky or anything, but it's just really nice. Like, when I was playing it, I felt rewarded for going through it, and when I played through Natlan, I was mostly entirely confused. Obviously, I am skipping over so many plot points that it's making me sound like I'm not paying attention to anything, but I did genuinely sit down and play it, as I do with all of the quests originally. But if it isn't interesting enough, it's not gonna stick in my head. It's not worth keeping there. So, you know, we go through all of that absolute shenanigans, only to come to, you know, the post patches. I guess after 5.5 or whatever it was, we got the last Archon quest in. And then we did just kind of, you know, running around as we always do. Like, the sub patches after that are usually not entirely interesting. Until we hit Natlan. Because why is there a spaceship? Why on earth did we decide to go that route? When I originally saw the cutscene for, I don't remember what the quest, it's not Paralogism, that was before that with Albedo or everything, which, by the way, Paralogism, really good. That was a super cool quest to set up Durin for Nodcry. I loved that a lot. It was very well paced. It had some absolutely gorgeous cinematics. It was awesome. But whatever the questline that I forgot the name of now that I introduced the fucking spaceship, why? Why? Oh, I'm gonna answer my own question in a bit, but I really want you to understand my frustrations with it. It is not okay. Oh, so Genshin Impact is basically confirmed to be some sort of odd time loop. I don't know how on earth they are going to make this work. I don't know if it's been planned for ages, but it really felt like it came out of the blue. We get introduced to a hilichurl that has basically transpired time, and we see the original girl who then becomes a hilichurl because of the whole, Conria falling and all that. But more importantly, your main character, out of nowhere, just suddenly remembers that there's a spaceship key, and there's a spaceship that you apparently flew here on. Where the hell did that come from? We've heard, as far as I'm aware at the very least, we've not heard about this at all. It literally just comes out of the blue, and it's like, yeah, this is the plot now. I have never dropped my jaw as hard as I did when I read that line the first time. It makes absolutely no sense. Like, I'm sorry. That is not where I thought this was gonna go. That is... There has been no hint, as far as I'm aware, to that ever being the case. Why a spaceship? Again, I will answer myself because I have a theory, but, game theory. So yeah, we get introduced to the spaceship. It apparently exists. We get introduced to Lamine again, who apparently can travel through time and, like, store the entirety of Conria in a USB drive for some reason. And that's just acceptable, I guess. I don't know. And then, like, 2 patches after that, we get a holiday resort where we finally get some closing on Bennett. And honestly, I am so happy they gave Bennett, like, proper attention. Again, I'm just happy to see Bennett, first of all. But the fact that they gave Bennett, like, proper closure, great. But yeah, no, I'm gonna be real and say, Natlan's story to me was weak. I can't remember a single moment in the story where I was wowed the same way that I was in Fontaine. Or even the first time playing it through Sumeru, when you started to realize that, you were in a loop, essentially. That was still a very cool moment the first time you played through it. Inazuma is also very cool when you get to see the whole, like, Signora cutscene and everything, where Raiden Shogun just decides that enough is enough. Like, there are impactful moments in the story that led you here. And Natlan just didn't offer any of that to me. I don't know what it was. It's weird. Right, let's talk some characters after this. Obviously, you have all seen me do an entire plot video about Mawika. I don't like Mawika. I think her design is the step in the wrong direction for this game, and if you want to hear my entire opinion on that, you can check the actual video. I'll have a little card up in the right corner if you want to check it out. But I think that a lot of Natlan is getting flack just because of her. Because there are some genuinely good designs in Natlan also, even if people are just constantly, shouting about Mawika all the time. So I'm gonna do 2 very quick tier lists here and kind of talk about my thoughts about what I thought about the actual character roster of Natlan. We are going to start with their visual design, and we will then do their gameplay. Then I will talk shortly about everyone, because there's only about 11 characters, so it should be fine. Let's start with design. I think Natlan actually had 2 characters that are genuinely great, them being both Mulani and Sitlolly. Both of these characters I feel would fit into the game of Genshin Impact without any worry whatsoever. Yes, Mulani is a little bit goofy having an actual living shark surfboard, but it's not something so out of the blue that I couldn't believe it to be real. I mean, we have, Torimaru, which is basically just a little not Toromoru. What is the name of Goru's dog? The little thing you summon, at least. Like, we have those. We have, you know, Farina's bubble buddies. We have a bunch of these other creatures that feel that they could be real, if that makes sense. And when I have a look at both Mulaney and Sitlali, they feel like they fit right into the game as given. Mulaney is just a cheery, go-happy girl and looks to be a surfer. I mean, her outfit is perfectly fine. And yes, the surfboard is a little bit goofy, and her animations especially are a little bit weird. But I don't think they are necessarily too weird for the game. Like, if we look at Klee and some other characters that have some really, like, wacky animations, essentially, I think it's fine. Mulaney's is a little bit over the top when we started having actual ahogi faces and, like, I don't know, anime cartoony effects in our attacks, I guess. They're silly, but they're not so silly that they, like, deter from the immersion of the game. They're okay. Sitlali, I think, is the best example out of all of these because her design is just genuinely really good. She has a very properly well-dressed kind of attire, but her entire personality is that of, you know, a shut-in neat, or whatever you want to call them. Like, she just wants to sit at home and read her light novels and not really be bothered. She appears very stern, but is actually just a tsundere the entire way through. Like, she's perfectly fine. Her outfit doesn't scream anything bad either. It's just really nicely done. Then we move up to the two good characters, which are characters I think are perfectly okay, but have some flaws. There we have both Kachina and Ianson. Kachina has the only example here, except for, I guess, Sharky the surfboard, with a motorized vehicle that I think is entirely okay within Genshin Impact's design space. It is just a drill. There is nothing entirely exciting about this, but she has essentially redecorated a work drill to be rideable. Is it weird? Yes. Is it unique and exciting? Also yes, from a design standpoint. Is it so outlandish to think that this would exist in a world with steampunk and high fantasy? No. It kind of fits right in, actually. I would imagine if you are part of, like, literally the clan that mines for a living, you would use whatever energies you could find to fashion an easier way to mine. And a drill seems logical. Like, we've seen the Fontaine mechas carry around guns and explosives. I don't think a drill is really that far off. Her design is also very cute. Obviously, that is the whole intention behind it, basically being a teddy bear. It's kinda nice. It fits right in with the other child characters of the game, and I don't really see a problem with it. Ionson's design is, you know, I don't actually, you know what? I don't know. It's like child fitness trainer. I don't really know what they were going for here, but her skull motifs and her general sort of bodybuilder, not aesthetic, but the whole vibe that she gives off is very good. Her actual outfit doesn't really have any problems either. I kind of like the baggy shirt that she's running around with, and the weird bird skull that she keeps as an ornament is actually really nice. I think her design is perfectly okay. It's a bit, like, outstandish, I guess, for a child-sized character, but it's perfectly good. Like, when I look at it, I don't see any glaring flaws and go, aha, this looks freaking stupid. It's perfectly fine. Now, let's move on to the okay tier, and we're going to talk about two characters at the same time here, which is both Auroron and Aoife. These two guys, I'm going to include their personalities in this because they annoy the ever-living hell out of me. The way that these two characters interact with each other is the biggest sort of step away from immersion that I think I had in the entirety of Natlan. Their constant use of the word bro and trying to quote-unquote stay hip with the kids is really, really annoying. I cannot stand them for the life of me. Kukuku is also just a really annoying squealing bird for the most part and does not help the situation at all. Actual clothing design and things, I think Aoife is probably the better of the two. He is supposed to be some sort of medic ranger, kind of walking around the savannah by himself and making sure he can protect himself. His gun is a little bit too much like a modern gun, I would say. If he held like an old-timey Western revolver, I probably would have been happier. But as far as his actual outfit goes, it's fine. I look at it and go like, okay, why is this here? But I'm not going to actively fight against it. Auroron's design is a little too emo for me. I think it's, I don't know, it stands out a little much compared to a lot of the other outfits. Like, don't get me wrong, I like that they're exploring new design facets and everything, but this one went a little too far. I don't know what it is about it that irks me the wrong way, but it's weird. And then the last of the okay characters is Vistas. Yeah, a lot of people are probably going to shoot me for that one, but I'm going to be real here. I'm not really that bothered about Vistas' design at all. I will say it is a little bit weird to dress her up as like a kawaii schoolgirl when she is quite literally a like pseudo wrestler, for better or for worse. But reading into it a little bit, you kind of understand that, you know, she isn't that confident and she uses the wrestler persona to gain confidence. Yeah, I guess I get it. I do like the fact that Hoyoverse were, like, I wouldn't say cool enough because that's not necessarily a good word here, but they were intent enough to change the medium female design to something new, which we haven't seen in an incredibly long time. I don't think if ever. That they actually gave her a specific model just for her to make her broader, both because she's supposed to be, you know, a bull, essentially, just, I don't know, she's supposed to be a cow, but cows don't really have horns like that, so she's kind of like a cow and a bull. I'm not entirely sure. She's a cow species, at least. So they made her, like, wider and thicker in general to kind of support that, which makes perfect sense. Her attack animations are weird. They're really weird. I don't know why they thought butt slamming was the way to go for her, but when you're actually looking at her and how the animations look, yeah, it works, I guess. That's why I haven't shoved this to bad, because it's genuinely borderline okay bad, somewhere around there, but I've pushed it to a K because I genuinely enjoy the design. It's very bright and colorful. It has a ton of details in it that you wouldn't normally notice, like all of the weird, like, tangles and stuff that she has. Yes, her skirt is ridiculously short, and I think they could have definitely chosen a better attire for her in general, but I still think it's okay. Right, let's move on to the actual bad designs then, the ones that I actively dislike. Let's start with Kenichi. I think Kenichi has a bit of... I don't know how to explain Kenichi, honestly. The retro aesthetic really bothers me, because up until this point, we've kind of had at least a baseline as to what elemental powers should look like. Anemo kind of deals with the wind and throwing stuff around. You know, Dendro throws around green stuff, and it's kind of all about plants and that sort of thing. His 8-bit aesthetic does not vibe with me. I think it stands out way too much for Genshin Impact to throw in like a retro-styled 8-bit character to just function within the world as is. I get it that Natlan was very much inspired by sort of the 80s retro tech vibe that they've got going on with, you know, disco making a comeback, but it just stands out in all of the wrong ways. Like, they gave the man a Mega Man Buster. Like, come on. I don't know. It just rubs me the wrong way. That is not even to mention Aha, or Aja, or Jeebus. I'm gonna be real. I have had to mute the game on multiple occasions because I absolutely hate Aja. I get that he was put into the game to be an annoying side character. That's his whole gimmick. But man, they did not skimp out on that. Aja might be the worst thing that was added, or one of the worst things that was added into the game as of Natlan, because it bothered me every time he showed up. It was a constant rapid mash an A button whenever he was on screen, because he is quite literally insufferable. If that's what the developers wanted, good job, you did it. Congratulations. I'm upset. But Kenichi his design just rubs me the wrong way. Then we have the second and only other one I put in bad, which is Xilonen. Xilonen is really, 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 really weird. What is a Gyaru skating DJ doing in Genshin Impact? There are so many things about Shilonen's design that I don't even know where to begin with, and I just took off my glasses. You can't see me, but I'm actually like rubbing my face trying to figure out where to start. Good lord. Most things about Xilonen are strictly wrong. They have an aesthetic that it does not match the high fantasy setting that Genshin actually is. I know a lot of people are going to fight me and say, oh, but there's more futuristic things in the game. Why are you so bothered about this one? There's a very fine line to draw between the types of fantasy you wish to present. For those that don't know, there are typically two vibes of fantasy that people kind of talk about. Low fantasy and high fantasy. Low fantasy are things like Lord of the Rings, where magic is incredibly sparse and is like a godlike power to most people. That's why people like Gandalf are so renowned, because they're one of a very, very few people who can actually use magic. And most of the time in low fantasy, magic is not something to mess with. It's either incredibly powerful or it's some sort of like high cost, high usage, whatever. Like you pay your own life force or some stupid shit. Like generally speaking, most things in low fantasy are all about sword and shield. Like you fight in a medieval setting. That's not what Genshin is. Genshin is high fantasy, where magic is abundant, powers is very common, and you could basically use your magic to do household chores and no one would really bat an eye at it. However, when you start going beyond that, you step into steampunk. Steampunk is when you have magic meeting technology, which is what Fontaine does really good. You can very easily tell that the entire society of Fontaine is very technologically advanced, but they are also using their magic alongside it. Like a good example of this are like the guard mechas and stuff, because clearly these are mechanical beings being powered by, you know, whatever fuel it was the Fontaine had from the Oratrice Mécanique Delanise Portinel, whatever. Like, yeah, they're machinery, but they assist people who do not have magic, or in this case visions and things like that. It's integrated so well into the world that these two things coexist. That's what makes it work in high fantasy. Steampunk is like a subsector of that you can kind of borrow from if you want technology to meet magic. It works great. But when we step out of high fantasy is when we start going into modern and sci-fi. Modern, obviously, is the day we are living in today. You know, technology being rampant, magic is basically non-existent, and everything we do is like guns and gunpowder and steam engines and, like, not steam engines, like engines, things like this. And then we go even past that when we end up in sci-fi, where everything is technology-based. We have holograms, spaceships, like things that are so far beyond the capabilities of magic, and everything is basically steel and technology at that point. The reason I am rabbling about this is because the entirety of Shallona's design, with the DJ table, her skating attire, the whole idea that she's this like 80s, 70s Gyaru type hot older woman character, that is a modern setting for a character. It doesn't match well with the high fantasy that Genshin should be, in my opinion. It just mismatches so hard with everything we've had up to this point, and it bothers me unreasonably. Her design is literally like a denim jacket and a bunch of neon signs. Like, it's not right. I don't like it. And then we have one character that I have put into awful, and it is for one glaring reason, and it is Chaska. Chaska's actual outfit, while not necessarily fitting into Genshin at all, given that she's basically wearing full, you know, latex pants, but she ripped off one of them for whatever reason, it's the gun. I think everybody can agree with me here that the gun should not be here the way that it is. Once again, if Chaska's entire gimmick was that she jumped up on like an air cloud and pulled out a 6-string revolver and used that, you know, like old Western style, kind of like fanning the hammer to shoot her shots, that would work, because we've seen these kinds of pistols and rifles in Fontaine, and you could just tune them to here. That would work perfectly okay. She's meant to be a peacekeeper, something that was very common in the Western days. Western is still modern in terms of the whole fantasy spectrum, but you can very easily adapt that to steampunk, which again, you can borrow into high fantasy if you do it right. But they did not. They gave her a flying rifle bigger than her body. I just kind of want you to like swallow that for a second. I know she's been out for a long time, but she has a gun bigger than her body. What? Why? How? When? Where? What? I don't know. Yeah, no, Chaska, just based on the gun alone and how incredibly awful that whole idea was, I cannot stand by her design. I like her, like, I like the rest of her outfit. I like the design in that sense, but the gun just, you could have done that so much better. I would have been perfectly happy with her literally standing on the ground and pulling out, again, like a 6-Pete or whatever they're called. You could, like, there's a name for a, like a 6-shooter revolver that I've completely forgotten in Western movies, but whatever. That. And just stood there and, like, held her, like, hand on the trigger, aiming her 6 shots and then fanning the hammer really quickly. That would have worked. I would have been perfectly okay with that. But no. And then, for obvious reasons, Mawika has her own tier. Mawika is the definition of insanity. If you want to watch the video that I made on it, I'll link it up again in the top right. I go into great detail about why I do not like Mawika. It is again an opinion, but hey, if you want to listen to it, it's there. Now, I'll really quickly touch on the gameplay of every character as well, because I actually think this is a way more positive note, because I think most of the Natlan characters were genuinely very fun to play. I'll start with the only one that I consider to be genuinely awful, and that is Shalonen. Shalonen's entire gameplay revolves around you swapping into her, attacking with her twice, sometimes bursting, and then just leaving her in the back. She's done her job. Her incredible, like, flair and all the animations, don't bother with it. You don't have to. She's there to rest shred. That's it. I know some people play her as a main DPS, which I will be fair and say, I have never tried. Maybe that's better? I don't know. But in my book, she is by far the most boring character to play because she doesn't really get to do anything. She exists for 2 auto attacks every rotation, and then she just jumps in the back. There are 3 characters I would consider to be bad on the spectrum, which would be Sitlali, Oraron, and Kachina. They kind of suffer from the same problem as Shalonen does, just to a much lesser degree. With something like Sitlali, you actually get to use both of your abilities, and you can see her animations remain even after she leaves the field. Like her little cryo swirly thing actually serves a purpose in actual battle. It's fine. It's not good, but it's there. Oraron really suffers from this, being that you basically just throw out his skill and you burst sometimes, but at the very least, his animations actually stay on field when you do, and they look fine. And then Kachina is just, I'm not gonna say that she's unplayable, but she doesn't really get to do anything either. On-field Kachina obviously isn't very good, and the absolute slam of her drill is really annoying to listen to. And if you play her off-field, she just don't do anything. I don't know. Maybe I haven't given her enough of a fair go, but, you know. Now, moving on to the characters that I would actually pull out and play on a regular basis. Mulaney is weird to play, but she is not bad. I would actually pull on Mulaney just to kind of skate around and have fun with her surfboard, if anything else, because it is genuinely kind of fun to do. Her gameplay is also, again, very flashy, and it is, while somewhat slow, it is okay. That's why she's there. Eon-san is another one of those characters that doesn't really get to do much, because most of what you're doing is that you are basically jumping into her, running up to someone, smacking them once, and then bursting. But it is kind of the same as Shalonen, but I feel like it makes more of an impact because her animations actually have some flair to them. And I know that sounds insane, but when Eon-san kind of does all of her jumps and kicks and stuff, it feels like she's helping. It's kind of weird. Shalonen just kind of feels like she's popping in, doesn't care about what she's doing, and disappears. Eon-san's trying her hardest. I know that's like the worst reasoning for this, but that's genuinely what I feel like. And then Aoife. Aoife, unfortunately, is just a worse Chaska at the end of the day, even though he's meant to be this old electrocharge, ding-a-ling, whatever. He's fine. I haven't really given him the time and attention he deserves, but I could see myself pull him out one day just for the hell of it. Then we have some of the good gameplay characters, and I've slapped both Mawika and Kenichi in there, which is kind of ironic, because I hate both of their designs, but their actual gameplay is kind of fun. Yes, Mawika's motorcycle is incredibly stupid, but when you are jumping around and slamming it into hilichurls, it's kind of satisfying. I can't even take that away from her. It is weird that I can literally do donuts around my enemies and deal a shit ton of damage doing so, but again, it looks cool. It deals a lot of damage. It feels good to do. Like, yeah, design is one thing, but her gameplay is fun, and I can't take that away from anyone. Similar thing goes for Kaniche, being that he probably has one of the most unique playstyles in the entire game. You basically attach yourself to a target and spin around them rapidly in order to deal your damage with, like, your Mega Man Buster or whatever the hell that thing is. It's really fun. Like, I can't hold that against it. And the fact that he's Dendro opens up so many avenues. It's just nice gameplay design. That's all it is. And then that leaves the top tier of great, where I have the two characters that I think are the most interesting in terms of gameplay style we had from Natlan, which is both Chaska and Veressa. I know that's kind of silly, because both of them have very straightforward game plans in terms of their gameplay, but I think it just works really, really well. Chaska's especially, with the fact that she basically doesn't care about her teammates. I know that's weird, but the entire intention behind her kit is that you can put her with anyone because all she wants is the elements. Like, she wants feck elements in order to load bullets into her gun and cause elemental reactions based on the bullets she loaded. She doesn't need anything else to function. This means that you could put literally anyone in your team that you want to work from off-field or buffing Chaska, and it will function. It is also really fun to just kind of fly around with a gun and shoot down nukes from the sky. Is it stupid? Yes. Is it incredible fun? Yes. And I think exactly that goes for Veressa as well. Veressa is one of, I think she was the first character. No, actually, Gumming would have been first. I take that back. She is then the second character that can self-induce plunging attacks. You basically use her skill to lunge yourself forward a short distance, and the next time you make an attack, you deal some damage and you're launched up into the air in order to do a plunge attack. You can do this multiple times in a row, which is awesome. Whenever you are playing Veressa, because she is so ridiculously fast on her feet, it literally feels like you are jumping from enemy to enemy like some sort of freaking Dragon Ball Z teleportation move. And you are just crushing everything with Veressa's fucking behind. Like, it's goofy as hell. I'm not gonna hold that against anyone, but it is genuinely really fun to do. And I think that's the main line with the Natlan characters. Most of them succeed in being fun to play. Even if their designs aren't that good, in my opinion, they're fun to play. And that's what keeps people playing the game. So I will give credit to Hoyoverse, despite me not wanting to, that most of the Natlan cast is entirely fine. If you like one of the characters here, great. I absolutely adore both Chaska and Veressa, and I will continue playing them well into Not Cry, because I think they're genuinely really fun characters. Right, on the topic of gameplay, let's actually talk about the changes that they did during the Natlan season as well, because there are a couple of things that I really need to talk about when it comes to what the game actually felt like to play that kind of irked me the wrong way and genuinely scares me for the release of Not Cry. We had the Mawika issue. A lot of people who played through Natlan will know that the first real combat event that was released during Natlan, I believe in 5.1? I may be mistaken here, but I think everyone knows it, was the hardest character check that we have ever had. Was it possible to do with some other characters? Yes. Was it convincingly easier with Mawika? Also yes. Basically every single Spiral Abyss in Natlan has, through some way, shape, or form, either required you to or benefited heavily from having Mawika on your team. This is awful design. I think not a single soul can defend this. This entire patch has been so character reliant that it is almost insane. I am lucky enough to be in a position where both YouTube and my job could pay me enough to pick up every character that I wanted. And in the end, I actually ended up owning every single Natlan character. I had access to a full roster to beat the Spiral Abyss every time, simply because I could pay for it. That is not the case for a lot of people, and that is definitely not how you should be balancing a game. Understandably, just like other games on the market meant to be live service, there needs to be a reason for people to keep paying money, because without the money, we're not going to have a game. I can respect that, but this is not the way to do that. This is forcing your players into picking up a character, because if they don't, they are at a significant advantage. For people who play Honkai Star Rail, Castoris. That is all. For people who don't play Honkai Star Rail, go look up Castoris. If you figure out what the problem is, there you go. This has unfortunately leaked into other endgame modes as well, more so than anything being the Stygian, which was introduced during Natlan. And to be honest, I am very happy that the Stygian exists. Even though it is ridiculously overtuned for absolutely no reason whatsoever, it is meant to be an endgame game mode. You're supposed to have ridiculously built characters to stand a chance in there, and I can respect that. The rewards are really, really good too. That was the weirdest voice crack I've ever had. The rewards are actually really good as well. Being able to re-roll artifacts is a cool thing that they have added, and I am very happy that that is there. I'm also very happy about the artifact crafting feature. My god, we've needed that for 4 years, and it actually delivered. Yes, it sucks that at the start of it, you didn't really get what you wanted most of the time, and then they guaranteed 2 rolls into your substats, and then it goes slightly better. But just being able to craft a goblet of your choice with crit rates on it without having to worry about farming for multiple years is really, really nice. I think people are complaining a little bit too much about that, but I genuinely enjoy the change, and I think it was perfectly okay. Other than, you know, the basic update patches after that, we've obviously had events as well. I think the only real event that I kind of cared about was the summer event that we recently had, because it was alright. I wouldn't say it was very good, except for the Benny story, but it was there. But I feel every other event that we had throughout Natlan was kind of a wash, realistically. I don't think I remember a single one that was ever really relevant, except for the one where characters are just like out in the world and you can actually talk to them. I really enjoyed that. I am very happy that they are bringing that back and making it permanent through the wishing. Like, you can go up to Yayamiko's shrine and wish to meet one of your old friends, and they'll show up in the world to make antidotes. That's what they were called. Then you can like spawn an antidote and not cry. I think that's a really good way of doing those, and I'm very happy to see them, because that means there's actually a reason to revisit old characters and talk to them. I think that's great. But other than that, I think gameplay was honestly pretty good for Natlan. I don't really have a complaint at all. More than what I've said, I guess. I think it was fine. It was perfectly acceptable. They had some kinks. They had some real issues. And hopefully they're going to get better in Not Cry, but I severely doubt that they're going to stop balancing around new characters, because they want to sell their characters. That's the unfortunate truth about a gacha game. That's all it is. Right, let's finish off my thoughts by talking about the environmental design. I know I touched in the story section about how I did not meet the expectations of the game, I don't think. Because I was expecting kind of a war-torn land and did definitely not receive that. But I will say, for what it is, the environmental artists in Natlan absolutely struck gold. Is the setting great? No. But with what they were given, they gave us some of the most beautiful vistas in the entirety of Genshin Impact. I absolutely love running around Natlan and exploring, because there are literally so many beautiful places to see. I've only shown off 2 in this video that I really enjoy, which are basically just outline looks like this, because I just really enjoy them. But there are so many absolutely stunning places that if you just went in a direction and kept running, you'd find something worth screenshotting, and I think that is outstanding. Not to mention the music, of course, because the music team at Hoyoverse absolutely slapped it out of the park once again. Some of the battle themes in Natlan are literally my ringtone on my phone, because I absolutely love them. I don't think they outdid Fontaine, but that is kind of hard to do, all things considered. But they did an absolutely stellar job, and if anyone talks shit about the music team, go away. But yeah, no, it honestly feels really weird to be sunsetting Natlan very shortly. There is only about a week left of this patch until we step into 6.0 and Nod Cry, and I'm very excited. If what we saw from the trailer that came out just a couple of days ago is anything to go by, Genshin is going to bounce back from what Natlan was. With the new custom client thing coming out where you can basically create your own games within the Genshin engine. The possibilities are about to be endless, and I cannot wait to see it succeed. I really, really want it. I am not as excited about the not okay. Hi, Michalina. That's a very nice timing. You're featured in this video now because I feel like it. I'm not looking forward to the 6.0 storyline at all, really. We're going into that sci-fi territory that I actively wanted to avoid if possible, but I'm going to play through it anyway and hope that it is better than what I'm making it out to be. Most of the characters that have been revealed are much more in tone with what I expect from Genshin Impact so far, so I'm very happy about that. We also get to see some characters that we've been waiting for a long time, like Varka and Alice, that I am very excited to finally see, so that's going to be awesome. They might not come out for a while, but you know damn well I'm going to build Alice, because there is not a more beautiful lady I've seen since Yoimiya, and my standards are definitely up there. But yeah, no. While Natlan may not have been the best thing we've experienced in Genshin so far, I'm still going to look back on it fairly positively. Not because of the story, mostly not because of the characters, but because of the gameplay. Natlan was fun, but it wasn't good for the game, and I think that's the best I can possibly give it. I wanted more from Natlan, but I will be happy with what I got, and I will do my best to forget the things I did not enjoy, and move into Not Cry with an open mind. Anyways, if you have an opinion about Natlan, I would actually love to hear it, because, again, I'm genuinely curious what people's experience with this patch was. This has most of the community absolutely war toward, and it's interesting to see different opinions about what you liked or did not like in Natlan, so do feel free to leave me an essay comment down below, because I genuinely enjoy reading them as long as you're keeping a good tone. But if that's not your style, then I'd still like to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this type of content, do subscribe. I do standard only and a bunch of other fun challenges like Spiral Shuffle and Ascension Arc. They're all on the channel. Go, give them a look. And if you don't agree with me and want to call me stupid names, then do so at your own peril, because I happily invite you to. It's kind of funny. Anyways, that's all for me from this time. Stay safe out there.